Hi, I'm Sari from Sharetribe. In this video, I'll guide you through the essential steps to working with a custom hosted version of Sharetribe. We will do the following things in this video. Install a code editor, install and configure Git, Node.js, and Yarn, clone the repository, set up the necessary environment variables, and add your own remote repository to track your custom changes. After this tutorial, you will be able to continue custom developing your marketplace with code. Let's begin by installing a code editor. We recommend Visual Studio Code, but if you have a preference, you can install any code editor of your choice. Visit code.visualstudio.com/download. Here, you can see download options for different operating systems. Choose the one that you're working with, and then the download begins. Once the download completes, you can continue with the installation according to your operating system instructions. The next thing we are going to download and install is Git. Git is a version control system that you will use to manage your code changes. For Windows, you can see the downloader here, and then for Mac, you can just click download and see the instructions here. If you do not have a tool called Homebrew, you'll first need to install Homebrew by following the instructions. And then once Homebrew has completed installing, you can use it to install Git. Next, we will install Node.js. Node is a runtime environment that makes it possible for the code to run on your computer in the first place. Let's choose this version, which is recommended for most users. And again, just click the button, save the package, and then continue with your operating system instructions. When the download completes, it contains a file that opens an installer for Node, and you can follow the steps in the installer to complete the installation. You will know that Node has installed correctly when you go into a terminal or on Windows command prompt and type in node-v. You can also check your Git installation the same way. Type in git-v. The final step in our installations is installing Yarn. You can find all of these installation links in the video description. And now, since we've installed Node.js, we also have npm. So we'll need to use npm to install. Copy the command, go to terminal, and paste the command. Now, again, we can type in yarn-v to see which version of Yarn has now been installed. So now we have all our tooling. Before using Git, we still need to configure it. You can find instructions for configuration for your first time Git setup in this address that you will find in the description. The most important steps are setting up your username and your email. Let's do that now. We can check that Git has been installed correctly by typing in git-v, and it shows us the Git version installed on our computer currently. Now you can type in git config global user.name. I'm going to copy it from here. And then in double quotes, type in the name you want to show up on your Git commits, which are the changes you make to your repository. Now I have saved it, and I can check git config user name, and it shows the name I chose. The same goes for configuring your email. Instead of user.name, we'll just add in user.email. And for this, we will not be using the quotes. And now I can again check it, and it shows the value I just added. Now we can use Git, which is the version control system, to get the template code on our own computer. Visit github.com/sharetribe/web-template. You can find all these links in the video description. Click on Code and copy the command. Next, in your file system, navigate to the folder where you want to clone this repository. I have a folder called My Marketplace, and under that I have a folder called Custom Development. This is where I want to keep everything related to custom developing my marketplace. When I right-click on the folder name, I can open a new terminal in the folder directly. This is convenient because then you don't have to navigate to the folder in your terminal. On Windows, the command is open command window here. So click here, and we are opening a new terminal in custom development folder. Here, type in git clone and paste the address we just copied and hit enter. It creates a new folder, Web Template, and copies all of the code in there. Now we can see that there is a folder called Web Template. Next, let's investigate this in Visual Studio Code. So you can see we have the option to open file or folder with quick command, or you can open the folder from the menu, file and open folder. Here, I've found my marketplace, custom development, and Web Template is the folder we want to open. Let's trust the authors. And now we can see external, patches, public, scripts, server, source. This is just the different way to show the same files. Another thing we can do in Visual Studio is use the Visual Studio Code internal terminal. So in the menu, you can click terminal and new terminal, which opens a terminal in the same folder that you're now running. This is also very convenient because whenever we run code commands, we want to be running them in this same folder. Now we can start configuring and installing the template code so you can run the code on your own computer. For this step, you will need to have enabled a Sharetribe development environment. In this development environment, you need to have created an application with a client ID and a client secret. It's good to know that you can only ever see the client secret once when you're creating it. So when you create it, be sure to save it in a secure place, such as a password manager. You will also need Stripe keys. You'll need to add the test secret key of your Stripe Connect platform to the payments page, and you'll need to have the public key of the same platform account handy for the configuration step. Finally, you'll need a Mapbox key. We'll start by running yarn install. Then we can run yarn run config. And the terminal asks, do you want to configure your environment variables? Let's type in Y for yes. And now copy and paste in the variables that you're being asked. Now that we have entered different values for the configuration, we can click No for advanced settings for now. This has now created an environment file, and it has the values that you just entered. I'm going to replace the secret value soon. You don't have to make any other changes to this. When you are setting up your deployment, this is the file where you will need to find the different values. Okay, after installing and configuring, let's run yarn run dev. This opens a new tab in the browser. It takes a while to load, and on localhost 3000, you can now see your marketplace. Localhost means on your own computer. This is not on the public web. Great, you have now cloned your codebase and you're running it in your local environment. The final step in this video is that we're going to make a remote repository for your own code changes. Since the web template repository is public, you can't push your own custom code changes there. Instead, you'll want to have your own repository where you push your code changes and deploy. Let's create the repository now. Go to your github.com dashboard. If you don't already have repositories, you can see a create new repository link, or then you can click your repositories and new. You have to decide a repository name. Let's call it web-template. And you can then choose to keep it public or private. If it's your custom code, likely private. And we will not initialize this repository with anything because we already have the code that we're going to push into the repository. Click Create Repository, and you can see the GitHub address of your repository, or repo for short. Then let's go back to Visual Studio Code, and we can start a new terminal in this same folder. In this new terminal, type in git remote-v. Here, v does not mean version. It means verbose. And we are looking at what is now set up as the remote repository for our code base here. Remote repository means that there's a connection between the repository that is on the web and the repository that is on your own computer. We can now see that since we cloned our code from Sharetribe/Web Template, it has set that as the origin. Origin is often the default word for a remote repository. We want to change this a little bit. We will first rename this Sharetribe Web Template repo as upstream. And you can find all of these commands again in the description. Type in git remote rename. We'll rename from origin to upstream. This means that we can still pull changes from this repository, but we do not want to use it as our main remote repo. Now that we've done the rename, we can again type git remote-v, and we can see that the rename succeeded. Let's add the repository that you just created as the new origin. So type in git remote add origin. So we're adding a new remote with the name origin, and we're going to connect it to the repository we just made. And we're going to give it the address of the repository. So git remote add origin, and then github.com, your GitHub account name and your repository name. And now again, we can do git remote v, and we can now see we have an origin and we have an upstream. So now we have this connection here, but our repository still doesn't have any code. We still need to push our changes. So in Git, changes can be in several places at one time. You can have changes in your remote that you do not have in your local, or you can have changes in your local that you do not have in your remote. If you want to have the changes from the remote in your local, you need to fetch. And if you want to have the changes from your local to be added into your remote, you need to push. So now we have a situation where we have a lot of changes in our local, but we have nothing in our remote. So this means we'll need to push. And the way to do that is to type in git push. This pushes all the changes up. Now you can see that it has created a branch based on our main, and it has now created a remote branch main. So let's see how this looks in the remote. Refresh the page, and you can see we have the same kind of setup that we had in the upstream repository. We have 8,421 commits, 8,421 commits. So we have all the same code. Now you have a repository set up for your changes as origin, and you can push any changes you make into your remote repository. In this video, we installed a code editor. We installed and configured Git, Node.js, and Yarn. We cloned the repository. We set up the necessary environment variables, and then we added a remote repository to track custom changes. And now you can continue custom developing your marketplace.